I bring you a letter from the Honorable Mayor of Betterton, Maryland, to the Susquehanna River Basin Committee. We here in Betterton, Maryland are committed to cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay by reducing nitrogen and phosphorus from our wastewater treatment discharge. It's not on? Hello? We are committed to reducing the pollutants from other non-point sources. Our town, which is on the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay, depends on clean, drinkable water for our health and welfare. The measures needed to control the pollutants, nitrogen and phosphorus, are expensive and present a major impact to our citizens, especially the efficient treatment of the wastewater. This is a huge problem we're dealing with now. We cannot handle any more damage to the already severely damaged Chesapeake. We insist you take into account that the effects of fracking is a regional problem rather than one isolated to the upper Susquehanna, and the damages done to our water, earth, and air is a public health issue. The wide and shallow mouth of the Susquehanna, as it flows into the Chesapeake, is visible from our side of the bay. This already endangered river accounts for half of the water in our bay. The crabs, oysters, fish, and birds are just coming back from surviving the runoff pollution from years past. Working class people here depend on crabbing for their livelihood, not to mention our children swimming in the summer. You must consider us. We are directly affected by what you do here today. Where are you going to dispose of this massive amount of flowback water from fracking? Your solution to be rid of it by dilution is not a solution we will tolerate. Our sewage plants do not have the capacity to treat those pollutants from fracking. And an environmental impact study is called for to study the effects of re-injecting this frack water into the earth. Allowing the natural gas drilling companies to take these 26 massive amounts from the source of our drinking water is a death warrant for the Susquehanna and the Chesapeake Bay. By policy, you are to prevent, reduce, and eliminate water pollution. Access to clean water is a basic human right, especially so in our United States of America. Sincerely, Carolyn Sorge, Mayor of the town of Betterton, Maryland.
Actually, my name is the Reverend Leah Shade. Rick Phillips is with me, and I'm going to be reading a letter to the Susquehanna River Basin Commissioners from a group of interfaith clergy that are concerned about the 26 projects that are being submitted for approval. I am the pastor of United in Christ Lutheran Church in West Milton, and I'm a PhD candidate at the Lutheran Theological Seminary at Philadelphia. The letter reads thus. First of all, thank you for your service to our region and its waterways. We honor your commitment to discerning what is best for the future of our precious country and the public good. We have signed this urgent letter to you as faith leaders throughout the region who are alarmed about the long-term public health and economic consequences of allowing the approval of 26 high-volume slick water hydraulic fracturing projects along the Susquehanna River. The gas industry is lobbying to move forward quickly with plans for drilling throughout the Marcellus Shale, and industry reports claim that this method is safe. However, evidence from throughout the country where this method is being implemented presents a very different story. We cannot in good conscience allow this highly toxic method of extraction, which produces millions of gallons of radioactive and carcinogenic wastewater, to further contaminate the drinking water supplies of our cities and communities. American Rivers designated the Susquehanna River the nation's most endangered river in 2011, largely due to increasing gas development and lax regulation. The EPA has also declared the Chesapeake Bay, which gets half of its fresh water from the Susquehanna, severely impaired by pollution and is requiring New York, Pennsylvania, and Maryland to reduce pollution loads. Approving these projects would mean the withdrawal of over 25 million gallons of water from the river per day, and will contaminate groundwater with multiple toxins, including benzene, diesel, and lots of other things I can't even pronounce. We urge you to consider how your approval of gas development could contribute even more sediment and contaminants to the basin and not issue any more permits for projects that could make the pollution worse. In addition, our understanding is that the SRBC operates on the basis of joint authority, which requires policy coordination and uniform standards among member states when it comes to water use and management. The other two members, Maryland and New York, haven't yet decided to permit drilling. Thus, the only ethical course of action is to abandon these proposed regulations and not issue any more permits for water withdrawals until New York and Maryland have completed their studies of the impacts of gas development and adopted related regulations. Our children and grandchildren do not need natural gas to survive, but they do need fresh water to drink and fresh air to breathe.
Thank you very much. That's time.
Good morning, Commission members. Kelly, Madam Chairman. Diane Sigmund. I live in Bradford County. So some of the stuff that we're talking about and thinking about today already has impacted where I live and how I live. I think it's been nice to have the attention brought before us as far as orange water in Pennsylvania, because basically what that tells me is that we haven't done a very good job in the past. Yes. I'm also really glad to hear that our friends in the federal government, in terms of an article I read yesterday, President Obama has decided to look into better regulation of waste from coal plants. So that's a step in the right direction. I hope the gas industry is next. I also want to say to you that what you do in terms of permitting water withdrawals is not as inert as you would perhaps think or like us to believe. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I'm a mental health professional, and I know that people are responsible for what they do. Example, a state liquor store is not going to sell alcohol to minors. In Bradford County, in terms of meth labs, Kmart is careful how many jars or bottles of hydrogen peroxide they sell to people. And I would suggest to you, in terms of lethal weapons, the Susquehanna has the potential of becoming a lethal weapon. Let me tell you what I mean. When the water is taken, and you know how it's going to be used, you know you're permitting it to the gas company, to the gas industry. Well, what do they do with it? They pollute it. Then what happens to it? It kind of gets dumped sometimes on our roads. I drove home the other night, and there was a long trail of water on an otherwise dry road along Route 6 between Wyalusing and Towanda. Somebody dumped something. I also want you to know that on dirt roads, I own a Geiger counter. Son of a gun if they don't dump stuff on the dirt roads, and it registers for your information, twice background. So that's significant. That's something we need to look into. This is radioactive mess. They also are planning on spreading distilled water residue from the gas production on our roads in the form of salt and call it de-icer. Well, the stuff has heavy metals in it, and the stuff has radioactive materials in it. So what you permit in terms of liability, basically I think, and I think we need to consider it in this manner, you're unleashing a lethal weapon.
Thank you. Hi, Joan Schooley, and the good Reverend pretty much took my thunder. I just want to be on the record for saying that all that's been mentioned is all that I'm concerned about. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Fred Murray. I live out in the back mountain. In 1963, on Long Island, I caught a striped bass, and I got bit by it, and I get a reoccurring fever to go out and fish for these from then on. This October, I got on the boat with my family and friends and went over to Nantucket Island. That was my 45th year. Every year since 1970, I went out there to do one thing, fish for striped bass and bluefish. I caught one bass, and it wasn't even a keeper. Over the years, we wondered what was taking place with the decline of the bass, while Woods Hole stripped the eggs out of 3 35-pound cow bass, and not one of those eggs would have hatched out. And you know why? Because of the herbicides and the pesticides in a place called the Chesapeake Bay. In 1985, the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture allowed the farmers in this state to go to clear cropping. They put the herbicides and the pesticides on their fields. It went into the tributaries of the Susquehanna River and destroyed the area where the main breeding ground of the striped bass took place. It did another thing. If you were a pheasant hunter and went down in our so-called Dutch country years ago to hunt pheasants, you'd put up 100 birds. Today you won't put out any. We have the 3rd best population of pheasants in this country other than North Dakota and South Dakota. I belong to the Anglers Clubs on Long Island, and they ran a contest by Schaefer Beer. You weighed in the striped bass that you had to have not a picture of it, but you filled out a form with a witness. I won that 3 years in a row, and there's the little pewter pin that I won. It has 68 on it. I weighed in 86 striped bass that qualified for that. We were blaming the Hall-Sainers, the Posey bunch, better known as the Lander family from Amagansett. I saw them put a net off southeast of Morris's Inlet. When they made that haul, 2,500-foot net, they couldn't move it because the purse was filled with striped bass. They cut that net open, threw them into their truck, put them in big boxes, ice, and shipped them down to Fulton Fish Market in Beagle. It wasn't the water pollution. They're talking about the Marcellus Shale polluting that river over there. They're only right, but they're 35 years too late. Anybody in here ever pull a 35-pound striper out of the surf?
That's time, thank you, sir.
I think if you don't get the point of what I'm saying, you know what, I'm going to call that Susquehanna River a shoreline in the Chesapeake Bay that destroyed the blue claw crabs. The people for generations that made their living dredging oysters is gone. The Chesapeake Bay is a septic tank for that river. Don't like it, tough.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Because I have a soft voice. My name is Carol Ward, and I'm up here from Ardmore, which is only a few miles from Philadelphia. I'm speaking as a member of the Retirees Local of District Council 47, white-collar employees in Philadelphia. We have 1,000 members, and those members are aware of what is going on now with the Marcellus Shale, and they're concerned. We're old, but we have grandchildren, and we have people that we want to have a future for. And so I'm just very concerned about this. I believe that the effects of hydraulic fracturing are on collision course with human health and survival in many parts of this state. My understanding is that the Susquehanna River Basin am I too close to the microphone? Okay. Yeah. My understanding is that the Susquehanna River Basin Commission is considering approving these 26 massive water withdrawals. And I feel the way the previous speakers do about the severe danger of this. For example, yes, we've gotten a lot of rainfall and flooding, but there is the danger of drought as well. And there's going to be increasing competition for water in the future, as we know, as the population expands. Recently, there have been 400 days, I understand, of uncontrolled methane gas bubbling up in the Susquehanna. Can you still hear me? Okay. Probably too much. So this is something that I was so shocked by reading, because I've only been in this activism now for a couple of months. But The only thing, and I'm agreeing with the other speakers, how can any water treatment facilities take out the impurities of these carcinogens? And do we really want to be drinking ethylene glycol in the morning when we have our coffee or tea? No. Theo Colburn is an acknowledged expert in the field and has identified potential health effects of chemicals that would be used in fracking, and she has studied the Western situation. 25% of these are carcinogenic. We can't afford more cancer than we have now. With health costs and health care going down, how can we provide care for the people that may become ill from drinking this water? And I don't want to imply that I'm not grateful for the work of the Commission, because I have seen very dedicated people here. So it's a question of concerns about what's a priority here. I really feel that we need to get back into trying to restrict our use of energy and to do something to rein in an unprincipled natural gas industry that doesn't care what happens to any of us.
Thank you very much. That's time.
Hi, my name is Dean Marshall, and I'm a cross-addicted alcoholic. Oh, wait a minute, am I in the wrong meeting? No, I'm in the right meeting, because we are addicted. We're addicted to energy in this country. We're greedy for it. We're hogs for energy. Gas drilling energy companies are the same companies that brought us gasoline, motor oil, and heating oil, and pollution. And now they have a new trick to get the last little bit of fossil fuel out of the earth. That trick requires billions, even trillions of gallons of once fresh water.
Frightening.
I thank the Commission for its work too, because there are issues with every industrial water use, with pollution from fertilizer runoff and natural events, that this Commission is doing their job to try to maintain the quality of the Susquehanna River Basin. But I find it ironic that back here on 11/16/2010, I got this bulletin from SRBC stating that the SRBC encourages basin residents and businesses to continually conserve water. Water conservation for residential users includes repairing leaking toilets. A leaking toilet can lose up to 200 gallons per day. Repairing leaking and dripping faucets. A leaking faucet can lose up to 11 gallons per day. And it goes on about, turning the water off while you're brushing your teeth or shaving. Now, in reading the agenda for today's meeting and getting my calculator out the other night and adding up all of the 0.750 million gallon withdrawals here and 0.500 million gallon withdrawals there, I come up with 22,381,000 gallons per day that you're going to vote on today. Now, that's not all the gas industry. There's other smaller, water suppliers that want to take this water. So I figure, to be fair, about 75% of that is for the gas industry. Over a year, that's 8,169,065,000 gallons of water. Now, the gas industry is going to take that water and poison it. We need to do something to stop the gas industry from using water to supply us with our energy addiction. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The tide is turning. Gas drilling is becoming like the coal industry of Northeast Pennsylvania and the tobacco industry of the 1970s. Corporations once denied that their practices were causing health issues or environmental damage. But as time went on, their lies were exposed as scientific evidence proved the damage they denied. The gas industry is at the tip of the iceberg. We have listened for years that hydraulic fracturing is safe, yet day after day, we see reports of groundwater contamination, well blowouts, pipeline explosions, spills, illegal dumping, and truck accidents. The cumulative effects of gas drilling will be a monumental challenge to clean up, just as coal mining continues to be a problem. Can we possibly clean up 2 environmental disasters at the same time?
No.
I don't think so. The toll the gas industry will take on the Susquehanna River will be enormous. 28 million gallons of water a day will end up being mixed with toxic chemicals and dumped into injection pits in Ohio and Arkansas, never to be released back to the ecosystem. There are no long-term studies on what pumping millions of gallons of toxic chemicals into the ground will do. Currently, studies are being done to determine if this injected water is causing earthquakes. Fracking has been linked to earthquakes in the United Kingdom. I lived by the Susquehanna River all my life and wondered if someday, if it would ever be clean enough to swim in or eat the fish I caught. As stewards of the river, it is your job to keep the river healthy for your children and my children and their children. 20 years from now, do you want to be remembered like the cigarette executives that knew smoking was dangerous but covered it up to make a buck? Do you want to be remembered like the coal barons of a century ago who didn't care what they were doing to the river would affect people for the next 100 years? You know the dangers of gas drilling. If you don't, you're not doing your job. Do the right thing to preserve the river for generations to come. I've also submitted a video for the commission as well. Thank you.
The mission of the Susquehanna River Basin Commission is to enhance public welfare through comprehensive planning, water supply allocation, and management of the water resources of the Susquehanna River Basin. The Department of Environmental Protection reports over 1,300 wells drilled in 2010 and 300 in the first quarter of this year. At 5 million gallons per fracked well, that is approximately 8 billion gallons of water that was used in this hydrofracking process in 16 months. The International Lake Environmental Committee estimates the volume of Harvey's Lake at 0.03 of a cubic kilometer, or 8 billion gallons. In less than 2 years' time, the equivalent of Pennsylvania's largest natural lake by volume has been squandered and turned into untreatable radioactive sludge. This does not enhance the public welfare. It is mismanagement of the water resources of the Susquehanna River Basin. This is unconscionable. We are tired of hearing pandering politicians, insulting industry insiders, and radio, television, and print advertising trying to convince us that the natural gas industry is here to create jobs and benefit our Commonwealth.
Yeah.
In reality, they are here to rape, pillage, and plunder our natural resources, make their profits, and leave devastated environments in their wake. The SRBC has been culpable in this travesty. Pennsylvania water is our Commonwealth property. It is time for the SRBC to live up to its mission. We, the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, say stop stealing our water. Stop selling it to an industry that turns it into radioactive sludge. Stop dumping it into our rivers and streams. No more permits. No more withdrawals.